Well, this is the first time since November 2022 that I've had this happen. Either my bin has went anaerobic, which means it has a really foul smell after you've put in, compost related materials, appropriate materials rather. And usually I put in food scraps. And then the bins are, the medium is mostly either peat moss or cocoa core, and then cardboard paper, shredded cardboard paper. So it either went anaerobic, so there wasn't enough oxygen, and carbon and all the elements, just wasn't quite right. Wet it too much, and things just started to rot away, and not in a good way. Or I had a lot. I mean, they were tiny, tiny babies. I ordered some from Uncle Jim's worm farm and some worms, and they were babies mostly. And usually I get really big fat ones from him, but this time they were mostly babies, and I had it had them in a bin about this size. It's not very, very big, but I ordered quite a bit. And what I think happened was, at the time I didn't have a bigger bin, or I didn't put them in a bigger bin, got busy. I just wanted to get them out of the packaging, put them in one of the littler, smaller bins, and kept it moving. But what I think might have happened was there was just too many, and over time they produced their own, the poo, okay, the castings, worm poop. There was a lot, so there's a lot of activity, a lot of moisture. And over time, maybe they started having babies and all of that too. And so I don't know what exactly the issue was, but I lifted this plastic and smelt death. When I tell you, when you know when worms have died or are dying, they stink. I mean, stink. So that's what's happened. So I made a new bin. And this is the part where I'm not sure of. So if anybody has any comments, let me know. But I made a new bin, fresh medium. But I kept the medium and all the worms from the other bin, and I just dumped it on top. So that's why it's so dark, because this is mostly probably castings. It was too wet to sift. So maybe I should have just let them dry and let that ranchy, stanky smell exist for another couple of days. But I just decided to dump them in, y'all, on top of the new stuff. And I'm hoping they work their way to the bottom in the next few hours. But in the next couple of days, because this whole bin is wet, because I had to make a brand new bin. You can't just put them in there with dry stuff, right? The medium has to be wet. Over the next few days, the next time I come down to water, which will be in about 3 or 4 days, I'll just see how dry it is and then sift the top of this, because there's not a lot going on in the bottom. That's all brand new. And just move on from there, because there were so many worms. I always start this stuff and then forget to record. So I should have done that so you could see how many worms. But it was a lot. Like I probably ordered a pound, I think, and they were all babies. So that means you get more worms technically, because they're so small, right? The bigger the worm is, the less worms you get, but it still could be a pound of worms. So anyway, I needed to get another batch, because I'm starting to teach classes, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough in production for bait. But I also had enough in production for the castings and for the classes, because I'm giving some of these worms away to other gardeners and farmers that want to start worm bins. And so I'm teaching them how to do that. So I've just been doing that for private organizations right now, but I'm about to post for you all that are watching that are local. You can come directly to my garden and learn this stuff, my farm, and learn this stuff. But anyway, the question, should I have waited to add these worms? Because I don't know which ones are dead or which not. That's how many worms are. I mean, it was a lot. There was no way to really tell. I didn't have any on top of the plastic, any that was stuck and melted on the bottom. It wasn't none of that. It's just the smell. So that's why I feel like, and it smells like worm death. I mean, really, it doesn't smell like anaerobic compost, to be honest. Like, it really doesn't. It smells like worm death. Okay. So I don't know. Anyway, it still stinks, y'all. Just because I added, I mean, because I got the stinky stuff on top. Just because it's added to the new stuff doesn't mean the smell went away. Now, if I would have buried it or put another layer on top, it might not smell as bad. And I might consider actually doing that. The whole room isn't full of worm death smell, right? But it's, when you walk up on it, you're just like, ooh, that ain't right. You know something is wrong in your bin. And a lot of the worms were in balls. Over here in the corner. There was another one that was over there in that corner when it was in the smaller bin. So that's another sign that something ain't right. So you got the smell, and then you got these multiple worm balls, or they're lined up together, kind of together. Something ain't right, and they know something's not right. So they just trying to get together and figure it out, I guess, was why they were communing in a ball. Anyway, maybe the worms that are dead will also, survive on or lay on top, clearly, because they're dead. They won't go to the bottom, and maybe I'll be able to get most of those out when I sift. But when I was fooling around, I couldn't really see any worms that was actually dead or dying. And you can kind of see the worms moving around. Now, this stuff on top is worm chow. It's food. Okay, because anytime I put my worms in a new bin or a new home, I feed them, just to calm them down. And so I bought the worm chow for Mimi's worms, but I went ahead and added some oyster shell to the medium mix because I wasn't sure. I'm not sure how much grit they actually have in the food, so I wanted just there to be grit in the container. So I do add that, and I've done videos on how I set up my worm bin. So if you can go to the playlist here on YouTube and search my worm farm operation, and you'll see those videos. See, they're real little, y'all, and there's a lot. Okay, and I saw a few cocoons too. So that leads me to believe some of these are not as small as I thought. Like they're adult age. See that guy? I think he's dead. There is no movement. Not him. He's alive. He's alive. But this one right... Uh-oh. I just dropped him. This one right here, I don't think he's alive. He's so limp and he's just not moving. They also die off when there's too many. That's how they regulate their population, especially as they're having babies, apparently. So they was probably doing some regulating, y'all, and some just had to, gave up the ghost. Decided they were going to sacrifice themselves for the advancement of the the worm community in which they lived. So anyway, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to farm worms, and even though the worm is dead, it's still a great sacrifice of nature to be manipulated, so to speak, in these environments where we can control as much as we can. And they still do what they're designed to do. It's incredible to me to kind of watch that process, but sometimes it just is what it is. Get him all stretched out. What's he doing? Let's see if I can get him. And then there's little babies all over the plastic. Y'all see the babies? Yeah, but this stinks, y'all. It stinks. But I'm sure if I don't touch this anymore, I'll let the worms move on down to where there's moisture. They'll come up to feed because that's where the feed is, but they'll move down for the most part. And I'm gonna keep them under a light that's bright, and in a couple of days let it dry out just a little bit more on the top, and then sift and see if I can get some of them dead bodies out of there. And somebody had asked, like, I mean, why move the worms out if they're dead? Isn't that like organic matter? And I'm like, yeah, but in a controlled environment, it stinks. Now, it just stinks really bad, and you just want the smell out of here. I have a whole garden outside. I I have field crops. So I could I'm not wasting it, if that makes any sense. So I'm not sifting this and throwing it in the trash. It's going in the garden. So I'm not wasting it at all. But you're totally right. There are probably other reasons why you should get rid of dead worms in your bins, outside of the smell. You know, there could be disease that starts to grow. I don't know, bacteria and things that we don't necessarily want. But I'm doing my best to manage it. So, but if anybody else has any other tips, I would be more than happy to hear them. So please comment below. Please, please, please. And thank y'all so much for watching my videos. They're coming out as they come. I did not realize how busy this season was going to be. I was already busy, but this is busy. So our first farmers market starts tomorrow, Sunday, and I'm getting ready for that, but I smelt the smell. So like I had to stop everything I was doing to figure out what was going on. So that's what it is. That's what it is. So I'm prepping to get ready for the farmers market, where I have a lot of vegetable plants and herb plants, and fruit plants and sunflowers and pollinator plants, you know, to sell. I have some mustard greens to sell that I still have to harvest this evening when the sun goes down. And so it'll probably be about 8:30 before I get out there and harvest that. Because it's hot today, y'all. It's like in the 90s. So the sun needs to be almost gone so I can water and harvest everything. And then I'll have worm poop for sale at the farmers market as well. I did get approval. The worms won't be there, so we can't really sell live animals, but I'm selling the soil enhancer called worm poop or worm castings, farmed locally here at the farm. So all right, y'all, thank y'all so much for watching. Till next time, see you later. Peace.